Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Every Horror Film Where Horror is Forever. And today we're going to be reviewing Smile. That's right. It puts a smile on your face when you watch the movie. It's such a great comedy. You smile throughout the whole film.
Yeah, you do something throughout the whole film. I mean, some of us might sleep, some of us might laugh, some of us might get scared, but I doubt it. But we'll
Absolutely.
see. That's what we're going to talk about, right?
That's right. So with this movie here, I remember when it came out last October. I didn't go and see it in theaters. I heard some good, some bad things about it. At first, when I saw the marketing, I thought it was kind of a gimmicky type movie like Truth or Dare that's come out by Blumhouse. A couple of these films that they just seem kind of cheap just to get like teenagers into the theaters. But my first time watching it, I bought it on Blu-ray a couple months ago and I watched it for the first time last weekend, and I gotta say, for the most part, I really enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. Is it the best movie ever? No, it's not, but it's not a cheap gimmick like you think it would be on the cover and just by the name of the title. There's some pretty good characters in the film, especially the lead character, which is Kevin Bacon's daughter, by the way. I didn't know that. So that's awesome. And I just thought it was a good film.
Yeah, that's first of all, I commend you for buying Blu-rays without ever seeing the movie. I would never buy a Blu-ray without knowing that I like the movie first. Every Blu-ray on my shelf is something that I love and I want to rewatch, streaming service or not. So you buy Blu-rays without, you go into it blind. See that's a big gamble, but hey, you must have fat stacks like that. It must be okay for you.
I love collecting physical media. Even if the movie sucks, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy it. If it's at a good price, I'm gonna buy it. So I've bought so many Blu-rays I haven't even watched yet. So eventually I'm gonna get to them.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm gonna have you kind of lead this one here since you just rewatched it the other day, kind of refresh my memory. You want to give your opening thoughts on the movie before we kind of get into it, or
Yeah, man. And you kind of hit the nail on the head where with what you said about just to get teenagers into the theater, man. I was thinking about it when I was starting this. Like, what is the state of blockbuster horror nowadays? It's just sequels or remakes. And if you don't have one of those coming out, you get these really small, like throw them to the wolves, gonna make it or not gonna make it, like horror movies like Crawl or Malignant or Ouija or some other like something, an original idea, an IP that we've never tapped into, and you don't really know if it's going to go anywhere or going to flop. And Smile is in there in that group so perfectly. I hate to call it a streaming service movie, but it's not in the big leagues. The big leagues like the John Carpenters and even the rest of Blumhouse. And even the Rob Zombies, man. I wouldn't call it an A tier. It's in the JV league of horror movies. That doesn't mean it's bad. A better analogy would be, I was thinking about it, after I watched the movie for a second time last night, was, if horror movies were based on, or if horror movies were grouped into financial demographics, you have upper class demographics, lower class demographics, middle class demographics. You got the Exorcist, you got the Halloween, you got the Friday the 13th, and the Thing up there. And those are the upper class horror movies. They'll always be there. They've always been there. Those are the staples. You have the lower class of horror movies, which is like the Piranha 3D or the, I don't know, man, Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. I love to quote that one. But Smile, along with other things that came out in this post-COVID era, like Malignant and Barbarian, I throw in perfectly middle class. And as far as horror movies go, Smile is as perfectly middle class as it gets for a horror movie. Not big time, but you could do a lot worse.
sure? Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm right there with you. So we'll kind of get into it. So it's the movie. The summary is we've got this doctor. She's a psychiatrist, mental health physician, whatever, working in a hospital, and she's pretty much there all the time, seeing mental patients that are coming in having just your regular kind of issues. And she has this one girl that comes in, and she is just completely traumatized by apparently her college professor, offed himself in front of the whole class, and it kind of freaked her out and it traumatized her as any rational person would. So she comes in the room, and Sosie Bacon, the name of the actress, she's taking care of her and kind of asking her some questions, and she's really kind of like skittish and just like on edge and really nervous. And then she kind of describes what she's seeing, and at first, um the doctor is like, it's okay, sometimes we see things. She really doesn't believe her, just trying to kind of put her off a little bit. And then she starts to kind of freak out, and at one point she kind of like kicks back in her chair and falls over and starts like backing up, and the doctor's freaking out. She's like, what's going on? And then that's when we get to see the first smile in this movie. And then she kind of runs over there, the doctor runs over there to grab the phone to kind of call for help, and she turns around and the girl's gone. And then she turns like more to her right, and then she just appears with that smile like right here on the front cover of the movie. And that's when we really get to see a pretty shocking thing that happens next.
Yeah, and as she's smiling, you get the eerie creeping, like when someone smiles at you like that in a very sinister way, and you know that it's not happiness behind the smile, it can be creepy, and I feel like when they went into the writer's room with this and they were storyboarding, they said, hey, what's creepier than a smile that isn't genuine? Like a sinister, like I'm gonna hurt you smile. So, and they made a movie about that. So obviously she's smiling, cuts her throat, boom, credits from there, opening title, I mean. And she's the face of the movie, even though she dies in the opening scene. But yeah, man, she nailed it. She has a creepy smile. The psychiatrist never seen anything like it. You, as an audience member, are sitting there like, what's going on? What did she see behind the psychiatrist and whatnot? And the door is open for what could be an invigorating and possibly unique story. And from there you kind of follow the psychiatrist for a good chunk of the movie. I'd say the first act and at least half, if not all of the second act, you're just following the psychiatrist as she's dealing with what is now a passed on curse from this patient. And she's hallucinating, she's seeing things, she's hearing things. You see what it's like and see how she's being tormented by whatever it is that patient passed on to her, knowingly or unknowingly. And it's the main actress, her name escapes me right now, the psychiatrist. She does a good job. She does a good job portraying the fear, portraying the insecurity and the vulnerability, of someone who's being tormented by the unseen. But I gotta say, I haven't been totally anchored into the plot, this early in the movie to be, seeing what the psychiatrist character is dealing with. Like, okay, you're dealing with something, but I only had 5 minutes to learn about what it is, and it's from the ramblings of a crazy person. So I'm not fully enveloped in the plot device. I'm not fully enveloped in what this evil force is yet. And you're already going through the motions of showing me what it's like to live with this. So that's hard. That's hard as a viewer to really invest yourself in. I mean, even if the acting is A1 and the set design, the sound design, even if all that is A1, you're still dealing with a very new story and a very new idea. I'm comparing this to other movies like Sinister and Insidious, where we have no idea what the plot of the movie is going into it. But I feel like by the time we're in the second act and the main characters are dealing with this thing, we have a good understanding on our own of what this is. And with Smile, I didn't really get that, but am I overthinking it?
Uh, Maybe a little. I mean, I feel like I kind of understood that it early on at some point it was like, okay, this is some kind of curse, and then of course her fiance, people around her, they don't believe her, they think she's crazy, which rational people would. And but I do understand what you're saying. but it just as the film goes on, and I want to mention at the beginning, the part where the girl that's rambling on and she comes and sees her, I was fully expecting them to cut away from the scene where she's like, cutting her neck, but they don't. They show the whole thing, and it is gruesome. And then she falls on the floor, and the way she falls, she's still smiling, looking at the girl. And it's just like it's a great opening. I love that. And then yeah, as you say, we kind of cut, and then we just see the mental deterioration of Dr. Rose, that's her name, by the way.
Okay.
And she's just slowly kind of losing it. She's seeing things, she's hearing things. She starts to kind of lose it. And her fiance, at first, I really hated this guy throughout pretty much throughout the whole movie. But I started to understand they made him this character that really didn't care about her that much.
Hmm.
But in the beginning, I was like, man, this guy is a terrible person you're going to
Yeah.
spend your life with. He was like, I don't want to be involved with some crazy person. And it kind of speaks to like, maybe people's perception of people that struggle with mental health, like, oh, this person's crazy, or you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, he did a very good job. I mean, right from the get-go, like the way she's apologizing for breaking the glass and the way she's like tiptoeing around conversation with him, you're like, okay, is this guy like an abuser or something? But and you never once, I think, take the side of the husband or the fiance. I don't think you ever take his side, but even without him, even if he's just an asshole, you have to every time Dr. Rose explained to him or explained to somebody what was happening or what she thought was happening or that she believed the ramblings of this crazy patient or like even the people closest to me, if they came up to me and they said an evil entity is haunting me and the only way it's going to go away is if I kill myself, if anyone said that to me, true or not believing you.
Yeah,
You're crazy. That's it.
correct.
And credit where credit is due. I wouldn't believe that person either. But yes, the fiance is very good at portraying an unaffected, disinterested partner and leaving her alone to deal with this, whatever it is.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And then, she's getting told, kind of the same thing by her fiance, her sister's husband, her own psychiatrist, her own therapist that she's seeing is, kind of putting it off and saying she's stressed. And her doctor, the lead doctor at the hospital, her boss is played by the guy from Harold and Kumar,
Mhm.
and which was cool to see him. And he's like, you need to take a week off just to get away from everything. This was a very bad experience. Take a week off. So that's when she starts to deteriorate mentally. And I think the actress does a really, really good job of showing that and making it believable. And then at some point in the film, we see a cat, and anytime you see a cat or a dog in a film, usually they're going to die. And that pissed me off. I don't like seeing animals die in movies. I don't. I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to happen, and I just hate the fact that it did.
Though the manner in which it died, it caught me off guard for sure. I didn't see that coming. I knew the cat would like go missing or end up slaughtered or like its blood written on the wall in a crazy message or something like that. But the way the cat died, the way it was, the reveal of like she boxed it up and gave it to the kid as a present. Dope, dope take on that. I really like that. Caught me off guard. Very haunting image. It raises the questions, obviously, like when did this happen? Like I saw her wrapping the train, like stuff like that, right?
Yep.
But no, I thought the execution on that was very good. Ever since Pet Cemetery or any other horror movie rated R where you see a dead animal on screen that was murdered or treated cruelly, it strikes at your heartstrings,
Yep.
and animals are always innocent in these situations. So to see that, yeah, you're watching a horror movie. That reveal was dope. I like that. Points for that. One thing that really, you know, I always talk about pushing the boundaries. I'm not going to say you push a boundary with that because it's been done, but not a lot of movies would show you a murdered animal or even a murdered child on screen. Those are always cinematic symbols of innocence.
Yep.
and you won't ever see that on screen. So when you do, it still packs a punch. I could see a murdered dude, I could see a murdered old lady, I could see a murdered family, whatever. But seeing a murdered animal or murdered kid strikes a little bit differently, no matter if you're a veteran horror watcher or a newbie. So points for that for sure.
Yep, absolutely. And I really didn't see it coming until I was watching it, and then as soon as the kid starts unwrapping the present, I'm like, it's the cat. I knew it. And then as soon as I was like, damn, rip
Yeah.
rip to I can't remember the cat's name.
Mustache.
Mustache, yes.
Yeah, man.
Um so that happens, and so she's losing it. And then, at this point, she's gone from here to here very quickly. And at some point in the film, she's after the police show up to kind of ask her what happened about the lady that killed herself in front of her. She then learns, well, one of the guys, one of the police officers, was her ex-boyfriend or fiance or something like that. And then they kind of have a weird relationship, and he's just trying to help. I think he still loves her, and then she's kind of moved on. But at a point, she starts to kind of realize that, is this kind of connected? And it's one of those where the audience watching it, that she's right, but no one else believes her. And it's one of those like frustrating things where you want to just tell everybody what's going on, but they don't believe it. And she then, kind of looks into the situation with the lady that killed herself, what happened with the professor. And then it turns out that the professor earlier had watched someone else kill himself in front of him. And so she kind of started to put it together. So she goes and visits the widow of the professor that killed himself and starts asking questions. And that's when she starts to put it together, because the widow shows her this room where he was painting and drawing what he was seeing. And it's just all of this like distorted, weird smile stuff. And that's when it's kind of starts to get put together. And she's trying to tell her, like, hey, I think I know the same thing is happening to me. And she's like, if you get out of my house, that's when it starts to kind of pick up.
Yeah, and you enter the late second act where the main character of the horror movie is suddenly unraveling the web of mystery and putting two and two together and connecting clues that local law enforcement won't or can't do. And they start to go on their own Scooby-Doo manhunt where no one believes me, but here's all the clues that are meshing together. We've seen that before.
Correct.
But it so the idea is this spirit, this unnamed spirit, it latches on to you and it makes you hallucinate like a sinister smile, and kill yourself. If you've seen trauma in your life, you kill yourself with a witness. Suddenly, it passes on to that witness. Repeat the cycle, and it's just a trauma-induced suicide passing on to trauma-induced suicide. Hey, cool. Hey, pretty cool. Not exactly Final Destination, maybe like a long distant like cousin of Final Destination, maybe. I vaguely remember a movie called One Missed Call. I don't really remember the plot of that, but
Yep.
it kind of struck me similar to that. And other movies like that where they pass one on to another, like It Follows. It Follows just came out recently. And have you seen It Follows?
I have, yes.
It's a lot like that, kind
Yep.
of. It's like a suicide trauma version of It Follows. Anyways, cool unraveling of the web, cool putting two and two together. Cool twist in the chain of where if you commit a murder instead of a suicide, and with a witness, it passes on to them, and she talks to a murderer who broke the chain and got out of it. And then he's freaking out because he's like, "Why are you bringing it back to me? Like, don't talk to me." Like, that was cool. I was cool. I was invested in that guy. That's pretty interesting. I don't want to recycle too much of the plot here, but let's get to the end here because I feel like the biggest punch with Smile comes at the end. What did you think of the ending when she got to the old home where she saw her mom die and she went off into seclusion to handle this? What did you think about the end sequence?
I love this movie. I wouldn't say I loved it. I liked it a lot all the way until the ending. I'm not gonna lie. I texted you after I watched the movie. I hated the ending to this movie.
Why?
I really did. I it's become at this point, hey, we're talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, the ending is coming. And so, like you mentioned, we to preface, you mentioned trauma. Dr. Rose, she as a young child watched her mom, overdose or drink herself to death, something like that. And she walked in on her, and her mom asked to call for help, and she didn't do it because she felt like her mom was just a bad mom. And she felt really guilty about that for all these years. So this is this whole like facing trauma type situation, like you mentioned. And so we get to this ending part where she's kind of going through all this stuff. She's putting everything together. She's pretty much gone fully, the smile monster, this curse is taken over completely. And she's in this kind of this manhunt with her ex-fiance, the cop, to kind of try to put it together. And they start putting clues together. They figure out what's going on. So at this point, she's like, I know what I need to do. I need to go face this by myself. So I meant at the beginning of the film, if you don't catch it when they're at dinner, they mention something about the old house still being there. And that's kind of forgotten until the end of the film, where she drives to the house where her mom, died. It's still been sitting there. It's just an old abandoned house. So she goes there by herself, doesn't tell anyone. She's like, I'm going to go here and I'm going to fight this thing. And if I die, I die. If I don't, I'm taking it with me. No one else is going to have to go through it. So it's setting up for this really awesome ending. And so she goes in the house, and she tries to face this monster, and she walks in the room where it happened, and then her mom shows up. And I gotta say, they did a really good job with the monsters in this movie, if you want to call them the smile monster. When they show up, anytime the smile shows up, or then whenever you see this, it kind of reminded me of Barbarian, like the monster from Barbarian. It was very much like that. They did a really good job with that, and I really enjoyed the creepy factor, because a lot of times these monsters don't really look scary, but this they did a really good job with this.
Yeah, and you beat me to it. But one thing I couldn't wait to talk about was, I'm a sucker for good creature design. I did not expect this movie to have the creature design that it did. When it finally did reveal the monster, it immediately jumped a letter grade for me, because like I said, good horror movie monsters. First of all, cardinal rule: don't show me the monster until the end. You did that, great job. And when you did finally show it to me, it wasn't just like a bloody corpse of your mom. It was a totally original and clearly fleshed out creature that I know storyboard artists went back to the drawing board with and redid and redid and redid. And just the amalgam of all the smiles over time that it's collected, and the inhuman, the creature design is fantastic. So major points for that. If that part caught me off guard. I really wasn't into the movie, but when I saw the creature, I was like, wow. That part, I went back and looked back on YouTube like twice to go watch again, because I was like, wow, that's dope. So very good job with that, with the creature design. And even the preceding, tall, lanky,
Yep.
androgynous man woman with no eyebrows, like that kind of thing. Like, okay, that was, yeah, it was creepy too. That's always, that always is.
Right.
Think about it too, when Beverly goes back to her house, and stuff like that. But yeah, no, the creature design was fantastic. One major points with me for sure. The whole sequence of the ending of her going to like fight it in her mind and light it on fire, and she made it out only to realize the twist: she didn't actually make it out. She's still in the house and she's still dealing with it. That twist, see it coming a mile away. It would have been anticlimactic if she just lit the monster on fire and left the house the way she almost did. But you see the twist coming a mile away. But luckily, that predictability is made up for with the creature design, up close, up front, stable camera, looking you in the eyes, crawling into her mouth on screen. That's creepy. You finally have a good visual. You finally have a good idea of what these patients have been dealing with. And finally, you're like, oh, so that's what crazy lady Kevin Bacon's daughter saw behind the therapist. Okay, I'd scream and cut myself too. So that payoff finally came. at the butt end of a twist, yeah. But that payoff came, creature crawled into her mouth, she's infected with it. She's the next one smiling and killing herself in front of the next witness. The witness being the cop, he watches, and as any good movie ending is, it's open ended in the sense that you can continue the story in your brain once the credits roll, and and you know be it as it is, you can continue the story that he is now infected, he witnessed the suicide, now he's got it, so he's got to carry it on. So boom, that the chain's not broken, it's still going on. Good, you did your homework in the school of writing. I'm okay with that.
I'm not okay with it.
Why? Other than the twist sucks, obviously, but what is the issue with it?
For me, it's become way too common in horror films for the bad guy to win. And it's okay when it happens like every once in a while. I get it. Not every horror film is meant to have a good ending where the bad guy is defeated. And I'm fine with that. There are a lot of films where it works. But to me, the main character has gone through so much to piece this together and to try to put everything together, and has done all the right things to get to the point. And this film does have a lot of sequences, like you mentioned, where it's like stuff happens, then it cuts to another scene. Maybe it didn't really happen, a dream sequence, maybe it's a mental hallucination, whatever it may be. Like the scene where her therapist like turns into the smile and's like walking toward her is like this close from her, and then it cuts to another scene. Like, okay, did that happen? Did it not really happen? I don't know. And then you mentioned in the final scene, she defeats the monster, lights it on fire, walks out the house, and blows up. Turns out that didn't really happen. And it's just like, okay, it just was, you kind of built me up for this. And to say it really didn't happen, I was like, okay, whatever. So she has to go back and fight the monster. And to have her defeated by the curse and have the monster crawl and stuff. It was kind of a sad scene watching that, because it was cool effects wise, but I hated to see it because then she becomes the curse. The guy walks in, she lights herself on fire, she's smiling. I'm like, it just become too common for me to see the bad guy win and just have this ultra depressing, like the curse lives on. Like,
You expect it. You expect it now.
I've seen it 100 times. And for me, it was like, hey, let's see this person defeat the curse and just go out on top. There's nothing wrong with that. And people say, oh, well, you couldn't have a sequel. I don't think that's true, because do I want to watch a sequel? I mean, me personally, do I want to watch a sequel with this cop carrying the next film with the curse, doing the same story over again? Not really. I mean, I would, but I don't really want to. In
Yeah.
this movie, if she defeats the curse, lives unhappily ever after, you could easily pick up on a sequel in like a year or two where something happens and the curse is back. Okay. You could do that. It's not impossible. And I think that would have been a better route to go, because I got really invested in the main character. She was great. I wanted her to win this battle because no one else other than the cop really believed her. Her friend, her fiance, he was worthless. Her psychiatrist was worthless. Her brother, sister, mother, aunt, daughter, whatever, they were all worthless. And she finally put it together to beat the monster, and to just have a total fake out at the end. I was like, it just pissed me off. I didn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sucks because it's such an unearned opening for a sequel too. Like gone are the days where movies are earning a sequel based on quality, and they're just earning it based on plot threads left open. It's you can't go into the first movie trying to leave room for the second. It's just so stupid. Don't do that, and clearly that's what they did. I don't know if The Smile's going to get a sequel. I don't know if it should. To get a sequel to a movie like this, you're just going to end up repeating the same story beats with maybe gorier scenes, more jump scares. It's just going to be another roller coaster of middle class horror.
Right.
Like not. I don't want to say Saw, but like Escape Room or Any of the other middle class horror movies that came out, like anytime there's a sequel, it's just going to be the same thing, just with bigger budget for this story beats. So I don't want Smile to have a sequel. It probably will, but it's just very. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I do agree with you. Leaving the bad guy winning at the end, it's no longer shocking. At this point, I'd be shocked if the good guy won in a horror movie. So yeah, that's true. What other gripes do you have with this movie?
That really was my only main gripe. I actually really enjoyed this movie. I was originally watching it. Before I watched it, I was like, hey, it's probably just gonna be like a gimmick movie, like some you just watch on Halloween, and it is what it is. But I actually enjoyed it, and that's what made me, annoyed, was that if they would have stuck the ending with this would have been like a pretty good, like, maybe a couple years, like, hey, this is a, you want to put on Smile. It's a pretty good little cult classic film that maybe could get some notoriety, because I thought the acting was pretty good for the most part. The visuals were great. You had some good characters. There were some jump scares that kind of they probably could have done without, but for the most part, it does a good job at being creepy. It's not over the top. I enjoyed it up until the ending, and I thought, they could have had a nice, solid film, which it still is a solid film. Don't get me wrong, but the ending was the only part for me, man, that I didn't like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, there's not much to dissect with this movie. It's a one and done. Put it on at a party. Put it on just to check it out. Not a lot of brain food to chew on with that. That's okay. Sometimes you just want some thrills. So let's talk about rating, man. I'll go first because I got to do my 4 cardinal rules. I always do.
You
So
got
so in case you forgot what my cardinal rules are, don't show me the monster. Don't rely only on jump scares. You got to feel the threat at all times, not just when the threat's on screen. And most importantly, push the boundaries. Don't show me the monster. You nailed it, man. You did a great job. Absolutely the definition of not showing me the monster. And unseen force, great. Follow that up with amazing creature design. Boom. You absolutely won in my book with that. Major props. You move from an F to a D. Don't rely only on jump scares. You relied too much on jump scares, Smile. I don't like it. Some of your jump scares were annoying, like I was watching with my fiance. I even told her, I was like, dude, you're just making me turn up the sound so you can do a scream scare. Like, I know that's what you're doing. I know that's why it's whispering on the screen. When she's editing the audio and she's listening, she's like, oh, what's that I hear? There's no audio wave distortion on her screen. There's nothing being said. You're just making me turn it up so you can do a jump scare. I know it's coming. Fuck you for that. You don't win that. Third rule, you got to feel the threat at all times. Yeah, kind of. If you're the main character, you feel the threat at all times.
I agree. If you're the main character, you kind of feel it at all times.
If you're not in the chain, though, you're like, what the fuck? I don't care. This just becomes a drama about you, Dr. Rose. But it is an ever-present threat that you can't escape. And even when you think you can escape it, you can't. So, okay, I'll give you that one because I'm in a good mood today. You move from a D to a C. Pushing the boundaries. Didn't really do anything to push the boundaries here. Didn't really have any lasting impact on me. I'm not going to give you that one. So my grade is going to be C minus, C, C plus. I'm not going to buy it. I'm probably not going to watch it again. But I got to give you credit where credit's due. I've seen worse. I'll give you a flat C.
Yeah, I'm really close to that. As a matter of fact, if this ending would have went off the way I wanted it to, I probably would have gave this movie probably a B. I actually really enjoyed it. I knew what I was going into. I expected nothing, but I got a pretty solid movie that I enjoyed. Something that I was like, hey, this sounds like a gimmick. It's probably not going to be any good, but you got some good characters, some good scares, and it's not terrible. But the ending for me is going to put it down. I'm going to give it a C plus. I would imagine there probably will be a sequel for this, just because they can probably make some money off of it. I'm not sure what the box office was for this movie, but I'm sure they made a profit. And then Another thing I want to mention is that they had some pretty decent marketing for this movie. Now, I don't
I
know
was
if
just about to bring that up, man. Like the people standing in the crowds and smiling. I was just about to bring that up.
I will give them that. They
Yeah.
did some very effective marketing. If you don't know, around the time of this movie was coming out or before it, they would have people at baseball games and things like that that were behind home plate, and you could see them on camera, and they would just be sitting there with that smile, and it would just really catch you off guard. And it was effective.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they paid these people to go and just sit there and smile.
Of course. Yeah, and it got you asking about it. It got you Googling. It got some entertainment news articles written about it. So, boom, you succeeded. I like that. I love real world integration. Scream 6 copied you in that aspect where you see someone standing in a ghost face mask, like on security camera. Get out of here. That's stupid. But
Halloween 4 did that forever ago.
Right? So, I like it, man. Good. This movie's got a lot of cheese to it, very cheesy in some spots, kind of corny with the marketing thing. But you know what? If you're in a good mood, you could do a lot worse.
I agree. If you're interested in just a one-off movie, hey, you just want to put something on, nothing too serious, slap this thing on. You'll enjoy it. If you're like me, I pretty much buy anything on Blu-ray because I like collecting stuff. If you're someone like Jeff and you only buy something that you want to rewatch, probably not for you. I'm sure this is on streaming somewhere. I'm not
Paramount.
sure.
It's on Paramount.
Okay. Yep, Paramount. So overall, this was hey, not bad. Something you sit on and just watch. It did come from an original story, which was a short film, which is kind of about the same thing. I haven't seen that. I might check that out. Pretty cool. But the director, he did a pretty decent job for his first full-length feature film. But yeah, Smile, I give it a C plus. I think you give it a C. So
yeah, man. Not much more to say about that. Good middle class, good middle of the water. It's lukewarm at best. So
it could be one of those, what's the movie that just came out with like the priest exorcist or whatever?
The Pope's Exorcist.
The Pope's Exorcist. I haven't seen that, but I feel like it could be a lot worse.
The higher you set your bar, the farther you're gonna fall. Let's just put it that way. Smile had no bar set for it, so you did okay.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for sticking with us. I know we've been a little absent, but we're back. We're going to be back on this thing, trying to get one review out a week. I think we can muster that. So we'll see you on the next one. Follow us on Instagram at Every Horror Film. Jeff, anything you want to say before you get out?
Hit that subscribe button. You got to prepare for October. It's coming around. We're going to hit another marathon like we did.
We're going to leave it. Hey, if you have a marathon, one of the big franchises that you want to see, there's some of them I've seen a lot, some of them I haven't, and same with Jeff. So put in the comments what franchise do you want to see next? We want to review a couple one-offs here and there, but a new franchise is probably going to come this Halloween. So all right, well, in that case, we will see you guys on the next one.
The mummy has now been located.
The living mummy. The living mummy.
Bullets won't stop.
Some creature out of time.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
He's completely out of control.
I saw those bodies.
Is he a man or a monster?
You actually knew a werewolf in a peaceful town where nothing ever happened.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
In the mystical regions of Transylvania.